So today we're looking at primate origins in Germany. But before we look at primate origins in Germany, we need to go off into two directions. The first direction is last year in November, somebody brought a press cutting to my Language major class, and it was a revelation, because something that I've been talking about for a very, very long time, i.e. other primates developing in other parts of the world other than Africa, had come to fruition. And it was quite a moment, because somebody brought this article in and I just thought, wow, and I was absolutely speechless. And it said that we've got remains of primates in Germany that have recently been discovered dating back to 12 million years ago. Now, a few people in that room thought it was a hoax. I initially thought it was a hoax, so I did some research. And the strangest thing ever is that when you actually do a talk, a presentation, any research on a subject like this, you go down a rabbit hole. And it took me down a rabbit hole where across Germany, there are a number of sites that have primate remains being found. And that in itself is a revelation. But that's not unusual, because some of the earliest remains in the 1800s were actually found in Germany in the Neander Valley in 1856. And these remains were, as we would later come to refer to them, as Homo sapien Neanderthals. So that's the first part. The other part is, if this was the 1st of July 1935, being an archaeologist, I would have had to have joined the SS, and I would have had to have followed the theories and thoughts of the newly developing Ahnenerbe, which was instrumented, set up by no less than Heinrich Himmler on the 1st of July 1935. Now, the one thing the Ahnenerbe was seeking was evidence of a superior, pure Aryan race somewhere in Europe. And to be honest with you, they got very close. And that may actually sound absolutely mad. The Ahnenerbe thought that somewhere tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people once existed 10,000 years ago. They had technology that was far in advance of anyone at the time. We're not talking about Atlantis, but what we are talking about is people that would be the precursors to the modern day German race. Now, the reason why I say they came close, a few decades ago, we suddenly realized that the earliest forms of agriculture, animal husbandry, settlement, the building of stone circles, pottery, and so on, come from sites. The earliest evidence that we got in the British Isles of very early archaeology and advancements in archaeology seems, strangely enough, to actually come from Orkney, which is actually north of Germany. So the Ahnenerbe, in brackets, would have actually been right about their assumption. And it's so good that the Ahnenerbe didn't get that close. However, the Ahnenerbe didn't get close on another thing. In 1983, some of the earliest primates ever found on the planet were actually found in a quarry in Germany in 1983, dating back to 47 million years ago, which is far earlier than most other excavated primates anywhere on the planet. So now we're talking not out of Africa, and we're not talking out of Germany. We're actually talking about a multi-regional approach to understanding human evolution, because you need to chuck in the Chinese and Peking man and all those other peoples that we say existed in the past as primate peoples in other parts of the planet. And mark my words, probably in the next year, we'll see very early hominids being found in places like Mongolia. And usually when I make statements like that, I'm usually right. I'm completely wrong, and I'm completely wrong at the same time. They'll find early primates in Mongolia, but they'll find even earlier primates somewhere else. That's usually what happens with my predictions. So usually when I make predictions, they are always wrong in the more excessive way. I.e., I might say that we might find evidence in North America going back another 5,000 years, from 15 to 20,000 years, and it turns out to be 31,000 years. So the one thing about the Anunnaki is that if they had known about the fact that we've got multi-regional evolution of the human race across the planet, this would have not gone down well in certain circles. Heinrich Himmler used to have constant arguments with Adolf Hitler, and Adolf Hitler would in some documentary areas would say, actually, why do you want the world to know that we as a race are people that didn't have the technology and match the Roman Empire? You know, he used to say, well, you know, we've got Mussolini and his fascist Italy. Look, you know, they've got their Roman Empire building colosseums and roads and aqueducts. All we've got to look forward to 2,000 years ago is settlements without aqueducts and without technology and all the rest of it. And Adolf Hitler really didn't agree with the Anunnaki. It didn't fit in with his profile. Didn't fit in with his profile. So if we want to go from this subject, the Anunnaki, we've got to look at what the multi-regional theory is about, and that's a really interesting thing. And it involves fish and tortoises, and it involves a little bit of last week's lecture. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to on the chart. We're going to go to two particular areas, four actually, but we're going to go to here. We're also going to go to here. Two areas of Germany that we get really early primate remains. Now, if Germany had been eradicated and ceased to exist after the Second World War, the idea of Germany would slowly erode. And the countries where these finds would be made in the 1980s and a few years ago, we're talking about 2 or 3 years ago, would actually be found in places like a Greater France or a Greater Austria or a Greater Czech Republic. And people would probably accept these finds a lot more than them being found in Germany. So that's a clear fact. So this multi-regional approach relies upon thinking as follows: that we don't come out of Africa, we don't come out of Germany. What we're looking at is an emergence of different hominids from different parts of the planet, eventually interbreeding to give us the depth of cosmopolitan human being that we find ourselves today. So there's no one single tree that can be responsible for the human race. By saying there's one single tree that's responsible for the human race, it is quite dangerous. And the people who wish to continue this fallacy and this fake news about there being one lineage for the human race are white Western archaeologists who still claim that Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania in Africa, is the cradle of civilization, when in fact the Chinese are saying themselves that we've got a claim to have some of our genes in the human lineage pool. And now the Germans are saying the same. And actually, other parts of the world, they're actually finding really early hominids. And do I believe that they'll find really early hominids in America? Well, I'm going to say I don't know. I'd like to say no, but whenever I say no, I'm wrong. So I'm going to say I don't know. But if somebody had come to me 10 years ago and said, do we have human beings, primates, being born and developing in Germany, I would say I no, because we're always taught to believe those archaeologists that claim to know everything, and they clearly don't know everything. So this multi-regional approach, you think of tortoises. tortoises themselves you can find on the Galapagos Islands. Once you could find them on the Bahamas, and you can find them on most continents of the planet. Why? And all these tortoises are all the same, or they're very similar. They're just slightly different. And they don't swim. Well, they might be able to swim a little bit, pad their little legs, but I used to have a tortoise. If I put him in a bath, he'd drown not so long after that. And they're not terrapins, they're tortoises. So the fact of the matter is, you think about these tortoises and you think they've all got all these similarities, but why are they found in all these different parts of the earth? And you start to look at this and you start to think, well, if tortoises can do it, why can't human beings? And where does it all begin? Where do we all come from? We come from fish. And as these at one stage there were not as many evolved fish as there are today. And if you think about one fish going up onto dry land and starting to develop legs, and it starts to it's a bit like a frog. It's sort of semi terrestrial and semi waterborne and whatever, for a semi aquatic. You start to think, well, that's interesting. And then you start to look at frogs and toads, and you start to think frogs and toads are all the way across the planet. But did they evolve from one frog and toad? And the answer is no. We do not all evolve from one single person in Africa, and we do not all evolve from one single person in China, and we do not all evolve from one single person in Germany. Absolute nonsense. So when we think about the multi-regional approach, it really helps me. It really helps me go in a direction. If you want to talk about racism, and just quickly, if this First World War hadn't occurred, we'd have used all that technology in building technology, and today we would be about 30 to 40 years in advance of where we are today. And that's a fact. And the other thing as well is, people wouldn't be obsessed with just finding early hominids in Africa. They would be looking for early hominids across the planet. It's just because Germany's had wars and China's had wars, and the Olduvai Gorge has been completely absent of wars, right? That's why they've been able to do the research in the Olduvai Gorge. If Germany had been able to do the same level of research at the Olduvai Gorge through the long lengths of time, then we would have more evidence in Germany. But I got to say it, the evidence in Germany itself is quite impressive. In fact, we've got equal the remains to match anything found in Africa. But you know what some archaeologists say? Actually, people left, apes left Africa and they made it all the way to Germany and they developed and then they went back to Africa. I hear that. Absolute nonsense. And it's just this approach that we've got to look outside the box, which is actually known as post-processionist archaeology. We've got to look outside the box. We've got to see what's wrong with archaeology, and we've got to re-understand it. Me and Richard are writing a book on the archaeology and history of Barry. And I tell you what, we're looking at stuff and saying, that's wrong, this is wrong. And we're going to make ourselves very unpopular. But that's two people thinking it. And we're starting to think, well, the things that we're finding, I can't really tell you because Richard would probably break my neck. But what I'm trying to say is that archaeology is about those new frontiers, looking outside the box, and all these new waves of archaeology. So what I would like to do is nicely and tenderly, you've got Germany there. And this guy is known as Alfred Rosenberg. Now, this is a photograph of Alfred Rosenberg in 1942. He was a leader of the Ahnenerbe. He would have been a senior member of the SS, a senior archaeologist, and that's probably the position I would be in Germany at this present moment. However, would I go along with all this stuff that the Germans wanted people to know about in the leading up to the Second World War? And the answer would be, I would like to be thinking outside the box, and it would probably end up with me losing my life. Because as some of you know, I'm a bit of a rebel, and I would have wanted to make maybe I'd have been excavating at those sites and finding early primates and going to Adolf Hitler, and he would have said, we don't want to know about this. We don't want people to know that we evolved from creatures no bigger than cats, and that they, yeah. So you can look at the pros and cons of all this. Darwinius Maeseli. Darwinius Maeseli. That's where we're going to go next. So Darwinius Maeseli is the precursor to a number of primate types from Germany, but it doesn't mean to say that anything that's been discovered in Africa is wrong. I'm saying that everything in Africa is right, and I'm saying everything in China is right, and I'm saying everything in Germany is right. All I'm saying, it's a multi-regional model. That's the only difference. We do not evolve from one species. We evolve from multi-species. So all this absolute guff about Neanderthals being extinct and Denisovians being extinct and Homo erectusines being extinct and all the rest is absolute codswallop. That's what I believe. By the way, you don't have to believe anything I'm saying. But what I'm trying to get at is that this evidence is actually evidence. It's archaeological evidence. So Darwinius Maeseli was actually discovered in 1983. It wasn't really made public until 2006. And a copy that was made that ended up in the United States was deemed to be a fake, but the actual original remained in Germany. And this itself is the most well-preserved, earliest primate ever found on this planet. But we're not competing with Africa. They do have remains of early primates in Africa, but they don't have one that's as intact as the one in Germany. That's the only difference. The other difference is that they're developing separately. It's a bit like having 100 different types of Tyrannosaurus rexes. They developed in different areas. They happen to be going along that pattern. Human beings are a fluke of nature. In fact, everything's a fluke of nature. In fact, you put 20 monkeys in a room, they'll be able to write the complete works of Shakespeare after 20 years. So we're told. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But the fact of the matter is, all of this is by chance. You know, the planet is by chance. We happen to be a planet in amongst trillions of planets across the universes and the solar systems and the galaxies and all the rest of it. That happens to be where we are now. There might be another planet out there that is very different than us. And in fact, the superior being on that planet is actually reptiles or amphibians or something else. And when we look at this, we start to think about somebody coming up to us. Everything that we knew about human evolution has changed. It completely altered overnight. And it's like suddenly turning around to Jessica and say, actually, I've discovered a new color. And you're thinking, how have you discovered a new color? What is this new color? And that's the thing. I described it today as finding these new origins in different parts of the world, as having a diary that starts the 1st of January 2020. And then suddenly somebody coming along, actually, you've got a day of your life that you've forgotten about. And actually, if you go to the beginning of December 2019, and you're thinking, I can't deal with this. I just can't deal with this. It's a complete diary. It's a complete area. So Darwinius Maeseli dates to 47 million years ago and is otherwise known as Ida. And she was discovered in the Moselle pit in 1983 by a group of enthusiasts. They were prospecting in a disused quarry where other bones had been found, and then suddenly they found the most complete set of the oldest primate remains ever found on this planet. And let's actually show you the image. So that's a reconstruction. And from tail to nose, this animal as adult would have been no longer than 2 feet. But this beast upright is very similar to a modern day human being. And look at those digits, look at that. Look at the carpals there. Look at all the phalanges. Look at how all those little fingers, little nimble fingers work. And a thumb, very important. And actually, you know what's really important? The tips of the fingers are not claws; they're fingernails. That's what's important. And also, what have we got? Humerus, radius, ulna. That's what we're seeing. But this dates back to 47 million years ago. It's not got as many. It's not got loads of rib bones either. It's got a similar rib cage in number as us. The rib cage isn't as big because it doesn't need to filter air as we do. But that's one image, and then we look at that. Now, what is absolutely fascinating about this, more than anything else, is this. This black stuff is actually what's left of its flesh and hair. Yes. Also, the other thing as well is that's the creature's last meal. Berries and flowers and soft leaves and so on. And then if you want to look a little bit more detail, look at that there. That is actually quite a long protruding hinds. Those hinds are really well protruding. So you've got a femur, you've got a tibia, and a fibula. That's exactly what a human's got. And if you get rid of the tail, if we get rid of the tail, it's not letting me get rid of. If you get rid of the tail, for example, as we used to have tails, or if you ask Arnold of Todi in Italy in the 1400s, Englishmen have tails. So there you go. But if you get rid of the tails, you've got a spinal column that's very similar to ours. And we know that this creature walked upright. Partly, it walked on all fours and it walked upright. That's really, really important about this find. Very, very important. So let's see what else we can learn. Now, this fossil itself was found at a disused quarry near the village of Messel, about 35 kilometers southeast of Frankfurt, Germany. The fossil divided into a slab and partial counter slab after the amateur excavation and sold separately, was not reassembled until 2007. The academic world hadn't really seen it until 2006. So this find had remained hidden for 2 decades or more. The fossil's the remains of a juvenile female, approximately 58 centimeters overall in length, but an adult would be 2 foot in length. With the head body length, excluding the tail, being at about 24 centimeters, it is estimated that Ida died at about 85% of a projected adult body and limb length. So she was very close to being an adult. We worked out that she was 9 months old. And this was so named Darwinius after the bicentennial of the birth of the great Charles Darwin. So just a little bit more information on this. Hang on a minute. I seem to have lost my notes a minute. Ah, yes, a little bit more. So initially, when the slab was actually found in a shell quarry, they made a copy of it, and they actually sold a copy to the Wyoming Museum. And the Wyoming Museum was convinced that this was actually the genuine item, but it didn't turn out to be the genuine item. The original went into the hands of a private collector, and it went into the hands of 2 private collectors. So when this was actually offered for sale, it was eventually decided that it would be purchased, and it eventually remained in Germany. And this find itself is by many thought to be what we would simply refer to as the missing link. And this is crucial to our understanding this length of time that we've been wondering about our human origins. What we're going to do now, I'm going to go on to a little bit of an article. Let's change the image. And let's go. Got a minute. Now that's a reconstruction. Go back to where I was. So Ida. Now this is what they called her, Ida, and there's a reason. So she was 9 months old. She was about the size of a family cat, and 47 million years old. So she was 9 months old when she dies, and 47 million years old in the geological record. Ida is the most perfectly preserved primate fossil in the world. Paleontologists who study fossils estimate that Ida died 47 million years ago. And amazingly enough, 95% complete, 95% complete. And what was actually missing was actually his left leg, and that's it. So 95% of the body was recovered. She is the most complete primate fossil ever found. Even if you want to compare it with the, well, I'll say it with the fictitious Lady of the Pavilion Cave dating back to 30,000 years ago, even there's not even 40%. So this 95%, 47 million years ago, is quite a considerable cadaver. By comparison, the famous Lucy fossil, Australopithecus afarensis, is only 40% complete. So Lucy out of Olduvai Gorge, dating to about 3.5 to 3.2 million years ago. She is 40% complete. But this body that is millions of years older, actually by 43.5 million years older, that itself is 95% complete. Let's have a little bit more. Ida was a small primate, about 9 months old when she died. Ida's legs were longer than her arms, indicating that she could leap. X-ray scans show she was a female. Ida's remains also show she had a broken right wrist. She didn't die of a broken wrist, but it almost certainly contributed to her early death. Ida had large eye sockets, which suggests she was nocturnal. Nocturnal animals are active mainly at night, and the shape of Ida's teeth suggests she was a vegetarian. However, scientists didn't have to guess what she ate. Her last meal, fruit and leaves, was still preserved in her gut millions of years after she ate it. Isn't that amazing? We actually know what she was eating. That's absolutely amazing. Ida had long fingers and toes, opposable thumbs. Her hands show she had rounded fingertips with nails, not claws. Rounded fingertips with nails are classic primate features. The scientific team that introduced Ida to the world was led by a paleontologist from the Natural History Museum in Oslo, Norway. And the archaeologist known as Hurum persuaded the museum to purchase Ida. So an amazing find like this, world class, and it's being sold and it's in people's garages, and nobody knows about it for decades. It's amazing. And somebody asked today, how many more of these types of fossils are out there? And I said, there's probably a number in private collections. And when you think about it, this was found in a quarry, just as Neanderthal man was actually found in a German quarry. And you start to think that, if there wasn't a quarry in the first place, these things would not be found, but they're there for everybody to see. So with this private collector collecting it, it was actually in two pieces. So obviously the mold and the cast. And it was basically to actually unite the two together. And obviously you've got the fake in Wyoming in America. Mind you, they bought a whole bridge from London, didn't they, thinking they had Tower Bridge, when in fact they had London Bridge. One of the, you know, I'm not saying that all Americans are thick, because Pat's with us. She's the only sensible American. The rest are thick. One of the, and children are not thick either. Oh God, I'm digging myself into a hole now, aren't you? One of the surprises Hurum from Oslo and other paleontologists found, were they x-rayed Ida, was that she had many more teeth than the average primate. So that's great. So she actually had milk teeth, which is a characteristic of human beings. We've got milk teeth, amazing. And she's got milk teeth as well. But she dates from 47 million years ago. When the scientists looked closer, they discovered Ida was in the process of losing her baby teeth. Amazing. So she's not just a proto-simian or any early hominid of any kind. She's more advanced than that. You know, she's very advanced. She's very human. Unerupted molars, adult teeth that were pushing out her baby teeth could still be seen in her jaw. For this, the paleontologist determined Ida was a juvenile primate, not a baby, but not fully adult. Either developmentally, she was about the same age as Hurum's daughter Ida, who was also losing her baby teeth. They decided to name the fossil after her, Ida. She's just great. This expert from Oslo, Hurum, is got, it's great. So that's they named her Ida, but the actual scientific name is Darwinius massillae. The Messel pit, which Massillae is actually mentioned after, the Messel pit is an abandoned quarry 22 miles southeast of Frankfurt, Germany, near the village of Messel. Now you can imagine this, can't you? The quarry is going to be quite deep, and you've got to go really deep to find these fossils because of all the geology. And they've gone really down and they've actually found these remains. And it's quite possible that many more of these have been found, but nobody knew what the hell they were. The pit was formed millions of years ago when hot magma bubbling from under the earth came too close to the underground water table. When the magma hit the water table, it instantly turned to steam. Hot air rises, but this air had nowhere to go. The pressure of the steam caused a massive explosion as the hot air tore into the earth. The explosion created a type of volcanic lake known as a mire. The explosion that formed Messel Lake happened about 50 million years ago, during the early Middle Eocene epoch. Because the mire had no rivers running into or out of it, the water at the bottom of the lake received very little oxygen. Anything that fell into the lake was remarkably well preserved. They didn't go through the same decomposition process that other living things do when they die. Another characteristic of this wonderful ex-lake is that they sometimes spit out toxic gases. And these lakes, these maars, have volcanoes, maars, M-A-A-R-S, have volcanoes under them. And from time to time, they emit carbon dioxide gas. The pure CO2 travels up from the lake and can kill any living creature that breathes in the gas, except for people from my steg. Scientists speculate this was what killed Ida. Her broken wrist meant she couldn't leap and cling to high tree branches. Lower to the ground, she encountered the toxic gas at Messel Lake, lost consciousness and drowned. And it was that new advanced use of her legs that probably was a downfall. And how do we know she dates to 47 million years ago? Because they drilled cores through the lake. And scientists have also extracted volcanic rock that formed the ancient lake. Dating the rocks in the Marcel pit showed that Ida was about 47 million years old. But she had a very short life in a period known as the Eocene. The Eocene is an important period in human evolution because it was during this time that the first primates were evolving. About 40 million years ago, there were two distinct primate groups, prosimians and anthropoids. And it's said that this creature, Ida, was in fact partly prosimian and anthropoidal. In other words, indicating the missing link. Now, how can you work out the difference between a prosimian and anthropoid? Well, it's all in the nose. Which one am I? No, I guess silly. Basically, prosimians have wet noses. And types of prosimians are the likes of modern day lemurs and bush babies. Anthropoids have dry noses like me. Look at the size of this nose. I'm an anthropoid. Extant representatives include obviously human beings, monkeys, and apes. Humans have dry noses. They're dry nose primates. At some point during the Eocene, which is the geological period that this is actually in, primates evolved into two different branches. So they could have both developed out of our wonderful friend Ida. But like creatures were developing out of Africa, this was also out of Germany as well. Ida contained at times dry nose qualities and wet nose qualities. So she's basically both a prosimian and anthropoidal. And the Natural History Museum in Oslo believes her physical size and diet was similar to the eastern woolly lemur, so a modern type of specimen. She had what's known as tooth combs. They are teeth that are fused together, and they're forward angled teeth in the lower jaw. And this is what lemurs use to groom themselves with. And they don't have the grooming claw. So they don't have this tooth comb, which is as I've described. They got more of a modern day human mandible and upper jaw, and they don't have these grooming claws, these big sort of claws on their fingers. That's what makes these creatures very much more like they're human. A grooming claw could be classed as a second toe for lemurs, but obviously not for our friend here. So the Oslo team believes Ida comes from a time when primates were still evolving into these two distinct groups, because Ida has characteristics of both. Is this a missing link? Some people are saying. Some people are saying this is definitely the missing link. Now, this next point, as I take a slurp, this may sound disgusting. Do you know what you can do with rotten apples? Is put them in a blender and make it's really frothy apple juice. Lush. Anyway, this next point, I think this next point will really interest you, Jessica, right? Can I do an experiment with you? Mm-hmm. I knew you just fell asleep then, Jessica. I just wanted to crack you up. Right, so Jessica, I want to do an experiment with you, right? So yeah, look at this creature. Everything you already know. You're in a virtual classroom. So now, how do you think she ate?
Well,
what do you think she did with her life? Go for it.
What she did? I think. Well, she just sort of went about living life as an instinct. I think, how she would eat, it would be with her hands, vegetation. I think sort of, you know, it wouldn't be the same as us. Sort of, it would still be animalistic instinct urges.
And
So
actually,
that's how our life would be run.
actually, that's exactly what I expected. Right now, what this expert's saying from Oslo, this Hurum chap, he's gone into schools and he's asked the girls what they think about this creature, and he's gone into schools and asked what boy he thinks boys think about these, and the boys are more into sort of describing this creature as being very violent and a very nasty creature, and the girls are into sort of more practical, that, you know, they had a dangerous life and that they went on trying to live. And the point being made in this little bit, and as you've just demonstrated and I've just said, the point being made is that how these creatures were, and if they were primates that are directly descended from us, that we're descendant from, is all in the eyes of the beholder. So obviously, you know, it's somebody like Adolf Hitler might say, oh, it's a fluffy little creature, we don't want to have been evolved from that. And say a woman might say, you know, why not? Why can't we be evolved from that? So this is really important subject matter, and the interpretation is very, very important. So we're gonna end on that little bit for her now. And what I'd like to do is we just have a little bit more of a look at these images. So we've got, there she is. And there's the hands, and there you go. And it's just absolutely amazing that we got the last meal and everything. And this is more evidence than we've got in China. This is more evidence than we've got in Africa. But if they looked in the right places in Africa, they'd probably find a similar evidence, but it'd be slightly different. And why not? And there's something very important in what I've just said. That is exactly the thinking of the Piltdown Man hoax. So when Dawson was coming up with his hoax in 1912, and he sort of said, look what I found, I've actually found the missing link from a quarry in England, people actually believed the Piltdown Man forgery. They actually believed it. And they still believed it until 1949, when it was actually taken off display in the British Museum. It was actually taken off display finally, but people believed it. And actually, even though he faked it, and even though, you know, his idea was actually quite sound, because he was saying, well, why can't we be evolved from hominids? Why can't British people be descendant from hominids in Britain? That sounds quite racist, but when you look outside the box, he was actually looking at the multi-regional angle. Maybe what Dawson wanted to do was actually to say, look, what we've got, you know, we are always going to be British, and we're always going to be a bit like the German ideology. But if you actually look into it, it's actually quite interesting that people are thinking about the right lines. Why not? Why can't we have evolved from different areas? Why do we all have to be evolved from people in Africa? And why can't we be evolved from people in Australia? But then again, I come back in and say, actually, we're evolved from people in China, we're evolved from people in Africa, in Germany, in Asia, and eventually we've come into this sort of humanoid washing machine of humanity, and that's what it is. We're very different from rats, for example. But then again, are we very different from rats? Do we really know how rats have evolved? Of all these, and in many ways we are different from rats, because some species of rats might not breed with other species of rats, but it's seemingly that all humans will breed with all humans, you know. And and this is a thing. An Aboriginal might have a relationship with me, and somebody from Africa might have a relationship, somebody from China, and then from Japan, somebody having a relationship with somebody from India. And that's what humans do. And if that's all, if that's what humans have done throughout all the ages, you can start to see how a Homo erectus might actually have a relationship with a Homo sapien Neanderthal, and then Homo sapien Neanderthal having a relationship with the Denisovian. And then you have offspring and they're hybrids of hybrids and hybrids. This is how you get dogs. This is how you get these little miniature bloody dog things, you know. They started off up here as wolves, and then now these little frigging little dog things. So, but the difference is with humans, instead of devolving into all these little frigging dog things, right? What we've done, we've all evolved and converged into one human type. That's what I'm talking about. We're all one human race. And this is very, very important. And I'm not just doing it because I want to fit in with all the narratives that we got up, the woke narratives. Some people don't know what the word woke means. It's basically the fashionable narrative. I'm not doing this to fit in with the fashionable narrative. It's just the way things are happening at this minute. So, and I've got to say this, right? It's as easy for somebody from Africa to turn around and say, actually, we're evolved from loads of different people. But then when you just say we're evolved from one type of people, that's when you get problems. And that's why we've got problems in humanity, because we all want to be different when in fact we're all the same. It's difference that, so we all want to be the same. But we all come from this multi-regional development. So I think the best thing to do before we have a break is have another little bit of a look there and look at this chart, and then spot which one's Michelle and which one's me.
Yeah.
That's not a really good answer. So what did that mean? Anyway, so what we're going to do, get the annotation bar up here. So what we're looking at with this chart here is that, you know, everything is converged via different animals into humanity. There's no real way to looking at humanity. One thing I don't agree with is this human tree idea that we've got all these different lines like this, and then those are wiped out, and we just got the one line. I don't agree with that. What I think is everything converged into just this hominid. Nothing died out, everything converged. That's what I believe. But you can disbelieve that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Just argue against that. I'm okay. It's fine. But that's what I believe from what I've seen. So what the points that we're looking at is that we've somewhere along the line, we've got this common ancestor. Is it Ida? This common ancestor that goes into prosimians, and then this sort of simian type family, this family of apes and orangutans and gorillas and chimpanzees and humans. And somewhere along the line, there were lots of divergences that all happened to go to the same angle. Now, I got to say one thing is that dinosaurs become extinct 66 million years ago, 65 million years ago. Actually, you could argue that lots of dinosaurs didn't become extinct, flying reptiles and all that stuff, right? It's another thing altogether. I'm not arguing for or against that. Don't worry about it. But anyway, the main thing is that we will only ever know about 5% of all the dinosaurs that ever walked this earth. No matter how many pits we dig in the ground, no matter how much we look, we're only going to come up with 5% of all dinosaurs that ever lived. Right now, that takes us back to 65, 66 million years ago. Yeah. So if we go to sort of 47 million years ago, we're thinking, well, we're going to get evidence of maybe, if we really look, 10% of all the creatures that lived on the planet, and also, wait for it, 10% of all adaptations of humans. So when you look at this chart, there's no way we can actually say that this is perfectly correct, because it's not going to be. In fact, very recently, it was in Indochina. The reason why I'm saying Indochina, it was either in Vietnam or Thailand or somewhere, is in Indochina. They actually found another type of monkey. It's never been found before. So if we can't find all the types of primates on this planet now, how the hell are we supposed to find them in the geological record? We're not. So again, I'm for all convergence. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if there are any questions, right? And I do not know what's happened to Bill, because
I'm here.
you're not actually in the group.
I am.
Can anyone see him?
Yeah.
Nope.
No. He's
No.
not
Well,
even
I'm
on
here.
the participants part.
There's no video on. But it is on, yeah?
No, we can't see you. Don't worry about it. Right, Jessica. Anything? Would you like to say anything, sweetie?
I think. Do you think that the whole Adam and Eve narrative, that we come from two people, has sort of been the predetermined narrative in a lot of people's minds without thinking about it, and so has affected how people view where we come from?
Yes. Yes. It's complete nonsense. By saying that we all evolve, it's like talking about the superior race. Adam and Eve is Cain and Abel and all that type of stuff. It goes off into that eugenic type superior race type of side, and it's just wrong. It's just sorry. I'm not for that. And it's very dangerous to be talking like that now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Islam and Christianity has done a lot of damage, and it needs to be stopped. As far as I'm concerned, if we could wipe out Christianity and Islam tomorrow, this earth would be a lot more of a peaceful place. We'd end most of the wars on this planet straight away.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just ditch both of those religions, and we'd be a lot more happier. So right, so Pat.
I liked your comparison about the tortoises. They were developed all around the world, so why not human beings?
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, I thought the tortoises were. It made me think last week when we did the Bahamas, and there's no tortoises on the Bahamas anymore. I just thought, oh, Galapagos, and I thought, oh, Spain, and I thought Africa, and I thought, oh, right, I've got something here. Yeah, thank you for that. It was a good one. Thank you. So Henri's actually sent me some gubbins, right? So what I'm going to do, Henri, you talk a minute, and we're going to find your gubbins.
It just is a paper that pushes back your North American idea to 56 million years.
Oh, please don't. Let's just read this out. About 56 million years ago, on an Earth so warm that palm trees graced the Arctic Circle, a mouse-sized primate known as Tel-Harolina first curled its fingers around the branch. The earliest known ancestor of modern primates would eventually give rise to today's monkeys, apes, and humans. And these quickly spread across the forests of Asia, Europe, and North America, range unparalleled by all other primates except humans. But where did its journey begin? Why? Here we go. A species found in Wyoming is as old or older than its Asian and European relatives, upending the prevailing hypothesis that Tel-Hardina first appeared in China. I tell you what, this has got to be written by
Donald Trump.
Biden.
Oh, he can't write.
Biden can't write. Hey, hang on a
Too
minute.
sleepy.
You were a fan of Biden in the first place, Bill. So hang on a minute. Right, Bill, let's have something from you, and then Del Boy.
First of all, technically, why can't you see me? Because I can see myself in the top right-hand corner. I can see you all. So what's going on?
It's saying in the participants, when you click on it, your name's not there. But every time you talk, it shows my picture. I don't know if it's the same for anyone else.
Maybe Jessica. It's a sign of the times. Maybe actually Bill is coming out of the closet and he's actually a full-blown transvestite like me.
Yeah.
So, talking about transvestites, Del.
Yeah, really like that. Although I wouldn't agree about the sort of religious stuff, mine, because as a practicing Christian, I believe 100% that the Bible's true. No.
And you believe aliens?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 21st of December, look out.
Oh, Christ. Do you know what? I think you've defeated your own bloody argument there. Anne, talking
Well,
about cows,
yes,
go
I
for
mean,
it.
I know a lot of Christians who actually can accept a certain amount of genealogy. You know, what do you call it? What's the word?
Evolution.
Evolution. Yeah, they can accept all the different species, you know, evolving, but they see man as evolving from man. You know, they can't find enough linkage between species. The halfway house sort of thing. You know, there's a lot of people working on this, and they can tell you that there's not enough proof of linkage between species where they've evolved, you know. So there's but having said that, I thought that that little monkey, you know, it was more believable. You could see the process of maybe coming from a fish to, you know, a land and then into a small monkey, rather than saying, oh, we came from apes, you know. Like, I find that really difficult, but I could understand the evolution from the water through these small animals, you know. It's easier to sort of understand, because yes, they have got the same skeletons. They're almost like a little embryo, you know, of humans, you know. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Just one comment from me.
Hang on. You're not supposed to interrupt, Dan. Only I'm allowed to interrupt, Dan. I am finished.
Hang on.
Hang on. Let me. I'm just going to say something, right? So, base. I'm just, you know, because we can't see Bill. He's not really there. So, Anne, the thing is, the point is that why does it need to be this complex? Because, you know, we don't make it this complex with any other species. Okay, if you sat down with somebody who studies rats, they'll say that it was this. Nobody argues with it. Elephants. This. Nobody argues. So why is it such a car crash when we look at human evolution?
Yeah, I suppose because of the Bible, and because it's like a lot of early writing, you know. You know, because writing, you can't just pretend it didn't exist and people didn't follow this, you know. It's part of our civilization even, you know. But I'm not talking about Adam and Eve, you know. I'm not I can see the fact that it could have been in several areas all over the world that I don't know where we come from. Let's stop now.
and actually, Bill, you can now talk now before I upset him too much.
Are you sure? Well, one thing I think what Ida has proved and what Henry has just said just proves once again that the evolution theory is evolving. It will always evolve, and I don't think we'll ever get the definitive answer, ever.
No.
It's a fascinating subject, it really is. We are really mongrels.
But
It's a
it's
bit-
really nice that we've done it today. You know, I think it's
Yeah,
great that
yeah.
we've touched on it, you know.
and
Yeah.
it's a bit like the Romans in Scotland, Bill. They'll always be there, but we'll take a while to find them.
Indeed, they're there. So I think I'll log out now and log in again to see if I can.
I
get
think you should do that. I gotta
done.
say that Del said his favorite video is Fat Boy Slim.
That was
music
me.
video. No, I was just trying to embarrass Del.
Oh.
Fat Boy Slim music video for
Right here, right now.
is my favorite depiction of evolution. And you know what? In the break, I'm going to be playing that.
There we are then.
I'm going to have a break now, Del. Say hello
Stephen
to
has to
Chief.
I just wondered if it's something that you've done, Carl. You haven't let him in. You haven't let
For
Yeah.
him
God's sake,
in.
I have let him in, you...
No, I
I
know.
tell you what, Bill's an example of somebody who's always right.
Carl,
What?
Right, if we're going on to break, I've got to sort food out. So I'll see you in when we all come back.
Yeah, in about, it will be, Del, it'll just be before 10 past.
Lovely.
Okay.
Let me in. I'm going to log out now, so let me back in afterwards, Carl, okay?
Yeah, right then.
I
Right.
want to see, so I'll try that now.
Oh,
Right, okay. We can't have, the thing is, I gotta put pause on this now.
I've got low potassium anyway, so I eat a lot of bananas. Sorts it out without taking crap from
Oh,
the
right.
pharmacy.
That's cool.
Mm.
That is cool. Del, sometimes you amaze me, you do, lovely.
Do I?
You better stock up, Del, with Brexit. You better stock up. There'll be a world shortage of bananas now in the UK. You can see that coming, right?
Mm.
Shepstone,
Oh.
21.
If we have a deal with Venezuela and Colombia, we can have bananas plus.
Yeah, why not?
Mm.
Who's that dead body there? Looks like a new exhibition somewhere.
Not Glenda, is it?
No, I know what normally plays a dead body. I don't know what that is.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, dear.
I've got to go and check the oven.
Recording, so we're back into it. So before the break, we did most of what I want to do before the break, but we are now going to look at the find that really led me into doing this seminar, this wonderful presentation on evidence in Germany. And I said this isn't a competition. So usually primates, females are smaller than males, and you can imagine that's me and that's Michelle. And this is a reconstruction of our friend that's been found in Germany. And this discovery was made public last year. So let's get straight down to it. So what we're going to do is this. Now, last year, as I introduced, I went into the class, and somebody had an article, and it says, have they finally found the real missing link? Scientists discovered 12 million-year-old ape fossil with straight hind legs for walking upright in the heart of Europe. Ah, right. 12 million years ago, walking upright, that's quite something, right? The earliest evidence we got in Africa that's anywhere near that is around 8 million years ago. But 12 million years ago, it's in Europe. Love it. But the other thing as well is when we talk about Africa and we talk about Germany and China and America and all the rest of it, 1,000 years ago, none of these concepts existed. They really didn't. So when we're talking about these finds, we're talking about, again, the multi-regional approach. So these finds themselves come from the mountainous region in southern Germany called the Allgäu region. The set of remains is known as Danuvius guggenmosi and was a broad-chested individual and lived around 12 to around 7 million years ago. So his type of species and gait and evidence sort of goes over that time span from what I can work out. It wasn't a tall creature. It was about 3.5 foot in height, just over 1 meter in height. And it had a unique walking style. Now, the walking thing is the important thing. It could swing through trees, but it could actually walk on its feet. So classed a missing link between humans and our ape-like ancestors that lived around 12 million years ago has been unearthed in Bavaria, Germany. Now, an article like this, I haven't read them. This is an online version. And what newspaper is this in? I just got to double check. It was in the Mail, right? So this is the Mail online version. That's the article it was brought in. It was in the Mail. This is the Mail online version. And you don't often see articles online that have got nearly 1,000 comments on them, right? So you can imagine you've got people saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, this is what I've always thought. You can imagine the big argument, 1,000 comments left on this article, nearly 750 shares. So that's quite a popular article. And this was actually published on the 6th of November, 2019. So I think, I don't know what day that was, the 6th of November, but when I saw this article, it was a Thursday and I was over the moon. I was gobsmacked. I said, everybody, I'm not going to read this article out. And I didn't. And then I was going to do it in March and everything happened. Now we're doing this today, which is great. So it's described as an ape and human in one. Ape and human in one. Looking at that image is something very interesting. And why is it very, very interesting? The reason why it's very, very interesting is because that image is the image that we would have used to portray Homo habilis, dating to 2.5 million years ago. Folks, this image portrays a creature that lived 12 million years ago. So we weren't even close to when our first ancestors actually walked upright. We weren't even close. And when we think about the other example, 47 million years ago, being seen as walking upright and having all the digits and everything to walk upright, you know, we can't be nothing but wrong. That's reality. It was named after Danuvius Gorgenmosi, after a local river god in that part of Lower Germany. And the find of the broad-chested primate also pushes back the timeline for when walking on 2 feet began. Pushes it back. It's like, you know, the closest evidence in Africa is 8 million. This really pushes it back. It really does. And the technique it used to walk on the ground and to swing through branches is quite extraordinary. So this figure itself, we don't have just one set of remains. No, we don't. We don't at all. What we do have, we actually have 4 semi-complete sets of remains. 4, not just Lucy in Africa being one set of remains, not, you know, this one set of remains found 47 million years ago. Let's not do a competition, but there are 4 sets of individually defined remains of this genus. Yeah, 4. So that this is why. And the male was much taller than the female, and the male weighed about 5 stone. Now, I know what weight 5 stone is. My grandmother, when she passed away last year, she was about 5.5 stone. So I know how big somebody. It's actually quite small, but you know, you can get an idea of proportion. So missing link. Germans say it's a missing link. I that's fine. I'm okay with that. It actually, do you know, folks, by saying it's a missing link is the same as somebody saying that they found the missing link in Africa or they found the missing link in China. Do you know what? They're all right. Nobody is right because they're all right. That's exactly the thing. So it's astonishing that we've got bones that are partly ape-like, they're partly humanoid. This is definitely up there. Now, we had a bit of a thing earlier on about finding the missing links and all the lines going through the middle and all the rest of it, right? But in some ways, it's a bit of a distraction. Accepting a different, actually, what I'm going to say, right? Accept a different approach. Don't accept my approach, accept a different approach to evolution. That's all I'm asking. You know my approach. You might have your own. So it's what we have is involving the feet as well. The Danuvius is like an ape and a human in one. The ape-like features are slightly elongated arms. So ape-like features long arms like the bonobos. But it's this elbow joint, the elbow joint resembles a human elbow joint, not an elbow joint that is actually found in apes, which you find around today. It would have been able to hang from branches by its arms, but also walk. However, unlike other apes such as gibbons or orangutans, which do not use their legs as much as their arms for locomotion, this species had hind limbs that were held straight and could have been used to walk on. Now that's very important. This ape also had a grasping big toe. Hominid, we should say, had a grasping big toe, which meant it would have walked on the sole of its feet. Again, amazing, amazing. It uses the word extinct apes and it uses all these wonderful terms here, but obviously let's think about evolution. So we've got a long spine, which is a human characteristic. We saw that when we looked at the other example dating back to 47 million years ago. And what we do have, hang on a minute, Dell's just sent me a message and it's just thrown me. So hang on a minute. It's all gone wrong, thanks to Dell. Dell, you've screwed up my lecture. Hang on a minute. I've just something has just gone wrong. Right. Oh, hang on. Sorry. All right, just get this on you. Right, just got to get back to where I am. People who put messages on this thing on you just really throw me sometimes, including Dell. So what I'm going to do is actually show you some bones now. Let's show you some bones. Let's actually show you some of the excavated bones. There, don't they look absolutely wonderful? You can see some hand bones there. You can see some phalanges there. You can see some spinal bones, very similar to modern day human beings. You can see a bit of a jawbone, mandible, upper part of the skull, the mandible there. This itself, you can see the socket. So this is going to represent a humerus. This itself, I think, is going to represent a tibia. So that's going to be the lower leg bone. And you've got some of these bones, just a few of these bones, just to give you an idea of what's going on. So this could be said not to be the only site in the world that you're getting this type of evidence. That's great. So the ape would have had a broad test, as we said, found in a mountainous, isolated region. And the bones that we do find come from at least 4 individuals. So the bones that they have identified might actually come from more than 4 individuals. So what we've got a representation. There's more bones than what you're seeing in front of you, but those some of them. So what you do, you've got a representation of 1 male, 2 females, and a juvenile. And you've got teeth, skulls, jaw, rib cage, spine, arm, leg, finger, feet bones from all these wonderful creatures. So we got a bit of a reconstruction of one skull coming up now. So if we sort of put that on there. And so this is where we are in Germany. We're sort of looking at that sort of gap between Austria and Germany. And we go to bingo. Now, what is markedly interesting is, in fact, the molars. So these are very similar molars to ours. So you've got a canine and you've got incisors, again, very similar to ours. It's a bit of a thicker skull maybe, but that's in the reconstruction. The only real difference is that it doesn't have the flat profile as a skull that human beings have. It's still got a bit of a snout, but that snout is receding into the skull. So again, evolution 12 million years ago, give it some time for Pete's sake. So we're not exactly there yet, but we've got a few million years to go before we have any other problems. So as we look again, So the adult male's skeleton was so complete that the researchers were able to describe its limbs and body portions in detail. It was similar in size to modern day bonobos that, thanks to completely preserved limbs, bones, vertebra, finger and toe bones, and were able to reconstruct the way Danuvius moved about in its environment. Importantly, for the first time, we were able to investigate several functionally important joints, including the elbow, wrist, hip, knee, and ankle in a single fossil skeleton of this age. From the skull, we have found the left part of the face. We could estimate its stature a little more than 1 meter. Females weighed around 3 stone, so they were a little bit shorter than the males. As you would see with most sort of primates today out there, this is what you see. The women are a lot smaller. Danuvius would have had a powerful grasp and flat human-like feet for walking. Again, human characteristic 12 million years ago. It also had a mobile wrist and hands with curved fingers. Now, we were talking about hands and we were talking about grabbing and we were talking about using hands as, you know, to hold things and to eat things, which is really, really important. It's difficult to do that on all fours. Knuckle walkers like chimpanzees, actually bonobos, gorillas lack the extended knee and have less developed grasping. The fingers of Danuvius also lack the robustity typical of knuckle walkers. So it's got these fingers. It's got these sort of curved fingers, which is what we're talking about. So the uniqueness of Danuvius is demonstrated by its small body size, which lay between that of a gibbon and a bonobo. Where we go. I'll just show you another little bit of an image. Moving on. Ah, there you go. That's one of the semi-reconstructed sets of remains. I don't know which one we're looking at, but that's one of them. And let's just moving on. So hang on. So if we put this into perspective, we've got not just a one-off find. We've got finds upon finds, and actually where these remains are found, they found 15,000 bones altogether of various different primates, various different animals. 15,000, and that's just in one area. Little sort of boxes with lots of these artifacts in them of various different species. A Dryopithecine. So that's going to be another example found within the beds of the quarry that they've been excavating. Now, I do believe that's going to be a toe bone. And as we move on a little bit more. So the emerging picture of its locomotion is different from any known living creature. Living primates either favor their arms or their hind limbs, leaping monkeys and humans respectively, for instance. Danuvius shows upright walking originated in the trees, not on the ground, and early humans did not go through a stage of hunched knuckle walking. So in other words, we were talking about evolution. There are sometimes bits of evolution are bypassed. Our last common ancestor with great apes did not look like a chimp or any living great ape. He may have looked like Danuvius, Homo habilis. Danuvius shows us the conditions from where both great apes and humans diverged, and this evolutionary process happened in Europe. Our findings tremendously increase our knowledge, and this bipedalism and their sense of behavior. And if we look at some of their rib bones, we can't get images of all these, but look at that there. That's going to be the upper vertebra. That's going to be part of the neck movement bones. And so again, that point that these remains come from a number of different individuals. So bipedal origins, and the answers, we're getting closer to answering why and how our human ancestors became less dependent on life in the trees and fully embraced two-footed terrestrial locomotion. And we're slowly getting the idea why that happened. So what I'd like to do is now, when you're presenting something like this, sometimes you say something and somebody says, oh, actually, did you know they made a discovery a few weeks ago. I said, what? Yeah, not the one you're talking about. They made a discovery a few weeks ago. And because of all this COVID nonsense, there's been nothing really in the news. And actually, listen to this. 4th of October 2020. Did anyone spot this? 9.7 million year old ancient teeth found in Germany belong to a mystery primate. Did any of you spot that? 2 teeth? Well, I didn't. And I'd actually had that in my notes anyway, but I just thought, wow, that's absolutely amazing. We got more, again, we've got more evidence these primates. There's one of its teeth. Wonderful. We actually got two teeth. And so let's just go on to my notes and see what we've got. So the discussion over the understanding of our early history has been reopened by teams of archaeologists in southwestern Germany, who revealed that millions of years old teeth that belong to an ancient Eurasian primate. Now, lots of people have dismissed this evidence and said, oh, it's nonsense. And then you think, well, hang on a minute. The other stuff in Germany looks pretty plausible when there's loads of it. If anything like this was found in Africa, nobody would question it. That's the biased nature of archaeology. So what we've got in Appelsheim in Germany, it's totally new to science, and it's a big surprise because no one had expected to find teeth like the one you're seeing in front of you. That's one of the teeth anyway. And what I'm going to do now, we're going to actually show you the article I'm actually reading from. So that's where we need to go. So let's just new share. Bingo. Appelsheim excavations. So Appelsheim is different from the other sites where we've got evidence coming from quarries. So Appelsheim itself, for 17 years where the Rhine River used to flow, excavating riverbed sediments approximately 10 million years old. The area is well known to science for its famous primate fossils. So that's absolutely great. So a team excavating there, and usually in the last minute, these 2 teeth came to light. We really weren't expecting such a tremendous discovery. Obviously, being washed down into the river. So you're talking about excavations here of about 15 to 20 meters deep. The Germans go the extra hog. The teeth are completely preserved too. The teeth look excellent and are shining like amber, they say. The 9.7 million year old canine tooth and upper molar, found only 60 centimeters apart and thus believed to belong together, resemble those of great apes who lived in Africa back to 4.4 to 2.9 million years ago. So they resemble teeth of apes that lived in Africa up to 2.9 million years ago, as far back as 4.4 million years ago. But these teeth date in Europe to 9.7 million years ago. So the teeth closely resemble some extinct African relatives of humans. Since the official unveiling of the teeth, the global media outlets have been questioning whether the find is capable of rewriting human history, since it seemed to go against theories of humans originating from Africa. The teeth are unlike anything found in Europe and Asia. Can I just stop? So hang on a minute. Let's just read that line again. This goes against against theories of humans originating from Africa, right? So haven't we just spent the last hour and a half looking at other evidence from Germany, saying that we've got evidence of primates in Germany? And then we have that's going back to 1983, released in 2006, 2007. So we've got our IDA, and then we've got the find that we've just looked at before the break, and we've got then we've got this, and we think, well, surely in the other 2 episodes that they would be saying that, you know, we've got evidence of out of Africa. We've already got evidence of out of Africa, and then somebody comes up with these teeth and they're saying, this evidence of out of Africa. And you're thinking, well, if the other ones are out of Africa and in Germany, then this must be evidence of out of Africa. But this is what they want to do. They want to continually question this evidence. it's a complete mystery where this individual came from. Why is it a complete mystery? Please. I tell you what, right, let's just turn it around. Let's say that the Homo erectus actually come from Siberia, and let's say that Lucy actually comes from the Persian Gulf. You know, and it's just really silly, this thinking. Why can't these things come from Germany? It forces us to re-examine the theories that humans originated from Africa. So what? Why can't it be? So National Geographic likely belonging to a very distant branch on the primate family tree. Well, why not? It's 9.7 million years ago. That's pretty distant, if I may say so myself. But it's still evidence that we got primates in Europe. That's the point. And then we go to all the people who disagree, other people writing in National Geographic. The molar, which they say clearly comes from the same individual, is absolutely not a hominin, and would say also not a hominid. So what's it come from? An elephant? If they're going to make these statements, they better come out with the evidence. It's like I said this on Tuesday, actually. I got very loud on Tuesday. I said like, it's like going picking strawberries in a field and the strawberries are red. And then before the person who sees the strawberries are red, they say strawberries are blue. So then they go picking for strawberries in a field and the strawberries happen to be red. And they say, actually, these strawberries are blue. No, they're not. They're red. No, actually, they're blue. I can prove they're blue. You know, it's you know, that saying, it's like going blue in the face. You can't convince people of anything. And actually, what I'm asking you to do is just discuss this. This is all I'm doing. Right? I'm just saying we've got this. If I was doing this, what I should do in the future, I should do another one about out of Africa, right? And I don't think it would be as interesting as this, because the out of Africa stuff is not as diverse as this. You know, we got 15,000 bones at one site. Have we got that many in the entire Olduvai Gorge? And it's a big area. I just rest my case. So finally, what I want to quickly do is go to the Neander Valley. And that takes us back to, I think, where we began, really. So Neander Valley, the first evidence of Neanderthals, 1856. It was quarried out. That's what the Neander Valley used to look like. There's Bill with his children there having a little picnic. There's Jessica giving everyone a lecture, and there's me done a runner. So, and what we've talking, Neander Valley. There's the Neander Valley. Yeah, go on.
It's still on the article.
Oh, see, you shouldn't have fallen asleep. So here we go. I'm glad you said that, because I would be talking about things. So yeah, Neander Valley, there it is. At least you're awake. You were a minute behind then. And look at that illustration. That's what the Neander Valley used to look like, but now it's all gone. Lots of these places where they find the evidence, it's the evidence, you know, the original find sites are all gone because they've been quarried out. But you expect to find this evidence in quarries because you're working really deep. And there it is, the Neander Valley in modern day Germany. So if we can, I think that the last image. Oh yeah, it is the last image. So what I'm going to do is mention a little bit about the Neander Valley, and then we'll call it a day. So when we think about Germany, now there's something I want to say which puts things into perspective, right? So when these early hominids, well, when I say early hominids, they're not as old as the other stuff that we've been looking at, but when we think about the evidence of these Neanderthals being found in the Neander Valley in Germany, were found in 1856. Nobody questioned it. Nobody questioned it because it was the first. There was actually evidence of Neanderthals found in Netherlands, right? But you know, it was just, we weren't really sure. So and that was a few years before. But in the Neander Valley, they actually started coming across one bit of evidence, another bit of evidence, loads of bits of evidence. That's why they're called Neanderthals, because they're named after the Neander Valley. But nobody questioned it. They didn't question the Germans back then, but they're questioning the Germans now. why don't they question the Africans? Because they're certainly questioning the Chinese. Do you know, where is the parity? Again, if you've got multi-regional approaches, you don't need to question everybody. You believe everybody. And then you can start to go on in science, and you can start to use the science for the reason it's meant to be used for, to advance humanity. But these Neanderthals were thought to be primitive, stupid, and brutish. But that was because they got a heavy eyebrow here. I've got a heavy eyebrow, and I've got a big nose, which is actually very close Neanderthal characteristics. So we think about the Neander Valley, and we think about Neanderthals are named after the valley, the Neanderthal in which the first identified specimen was found. As I said, there was evidence of Neanderthals found elsewhere before that, in 1829, but actually not in the Netherlands, actually in Belgium, but it didn't really go anywhere. But then they believed the stuff in the Neander Valley. Can you see that? There's biased against the Belgians. They didn't believe the Belgians. So then they go into Germany and they found the Neander Valley. And if they had gone with the Belgian evidence, the Neanderthals wouldn't be called Neanderthals. They would be called the Engis, E-N-G-I-S, the Engis people, or can you imagine that? Homo sapien Engis, just put a H on that and it's just English. Do you know what I mean? It's just, yeah. So the one thing I'm trying to say is the bias in all this. What we do need to do is be logical. We need to see the evidence. We need to see what it is. We got dates, and we need to say, right, what does this tell us? We see changes, we see evolution, and we see the dynamism. I think I should end on this. We see the dynamism of humanity. And we see the dynamism on humanity by studying all the evidence out there. And when we study all the evidence out there, we can hope to understand ourselves a lot better. On that moment, let's finish. Let's see if there's any questions. Let's go with the class SWAT, Jessica.
When you gave the whole strawberry idea, it kind of reminded me of Plato's cave allegory, where people put, well, it's more of a philosophical, can't say the word philosophical.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
Philosophical.
Yeah. But it's basically people are locked in this cave, and they're only allowed to see forward, and they're shown puppets in the light, and that's their reality. And when they leave the cave, that's when they start to realize that there's more to what they thought that they knew. And I think it sort of relates that to archaeology, because I think people are so sat forward on what they're seeing in this cave that they won't think outside the box and leave that cave and see what is really reality.
I think we've all got to leave. We've all got to move out that cave. I tell you what, right? If somebody turned around and said, actually, you're wrong, I can prove categorically we're out of Africa and I've got all the evidence, I would be one of the first to believe them, right? But that's what I've believed all my life up until now. And now I'm believing something different. And we can all say, I was wrong. And now I'm into the multi-regional. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I admit I was wrong in the past. I remember giving talks in the past and saying, this is evolution. It was all out of Africa, because I didn't know the other evidence. But now I know some more of the other evidence. I can make up my own mind, and hopefully you guys can as well. Right, Pat.
Yes, would you show that map of Germany, the last one you showed of Germany, which had the location of the finds, sort of in southern Germany? Just want to look at that again.
Right, okay, so what?
No, not that one. The one that's just Germany. They're just Europe. Goes further back.
Yeah, much further back. There it is. So what we've got that site there, the Allgäu site, and just
one, yeah, thank you.
And just south of southeast of Frankfurt, you've got the other site, our Ida site. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Anything for you, Pat, you know. So Annie, no, we won't do Annie because Annie's washing machine's on. Del.
Yes, I've got a. It's a question I think most people might be interested in. It's basically, you know, we've got these drawn images of these pseudo-ape-like ancestors or whatever.
Yes.
You know, most of the evidence has come from a tooth, a bit of bone, and a bit of this and a bit of that.
Yes.
So how, it might be for a further lecture, but how can they sort of take a tooth like they did with the Denisovans and say this is what they look like? How do they project it, or whatever the word is?
Can you just bear with me a minute? Hang on, stay there. Oh, they've got their bags in the car, have they? All right then, where you going? All right then, fine. Hang on a minute. Hang on, right. Sorry, I just had some stuff in the background.
Not a problem. I mean,
right. Sorry about
this
that.
is something for another lecture.
No, the thing is, how can we do a reconstruction? We're basically reconstructing on what we already know. So we've got human skulls. Yeah.
Yes.
We got modern day human skulls and we got teeth.
Yes.
And what we do, we relate those teeth that we find into the archive of the modern jawbone and the human skull. So that's exactly what we're doing. Right.
Okay.
It's a bit like finding a bit of pottery. That bit of pottery itself is similar to a bit of pottery somewhere else. But then again, it could be completely wrong.
It could be coming out of the forehead.
There is one thing. There was a Star Wars episode. It was a really early Star Wars episode, and there was this girl that crashed on a planet that had the technology to put human beings and animals together, right? And because this planet that this human being landed on, they didn't know what a human being looked like, and there was bits of this girl everywhere. They put the arms in the wrong bits and all the rest of it. And then Captain Kirk had to have a relationship with this girl, and they made out this girl.
Of course.
Yeah, but this girl was a hologram projected, and it turned out that they got the reconstruction completely wrong. And you can get things wrong if you've got no information. If you've got no information to what a human looks like, then you're not going to be able to reconstruct it. But as we know what humanoids look like, we can reconstruct them from that.
Right, that's great.
Right,
but
so
I think that's something we could possibly look at in the future.
How to reconstruct?
As an idea.
Yes.
I mean, I've got a few things on some of these courses I do, and you know, it could be one that I do next or whatever.
Yes. No, that's really good. Yes, that's good. Right. So, Bill, anything from you, darling?
Just a comment. I think evolution must be the most complex, controversial and frustrating subject of all historical matter. And the evidence is evolving all the time, as I said. And that's where the controversy comes in, as you've outlined very clearly today. So we won't see an end to this for the next, well, will we ever see an end to it? But it's a fascinating subject, isn't it? More which is found, the more we can build up the genesis and the origin of where exactly we all came from. Quite controversial.
And the thing is, more attention has been placed into human origin than any other thing on the planet. Yeah. So you can imagine if they put this research into rats, do you know what I mean? It would still be the same outcome, that they either got answers or they don't. So we think the evolution of rats is quite straightforward. It obviously is, or is it? And that's the point. So, right, who have we got left? I think we've just got left now. Henry? Let's just do Henry, yes. Henry sent me bits and pieces about, I've just read it, obviously, about, I'll just read this one thing out, this sort of some research from Toronto, both apes which walk on their knuckles and humans which walk upright diverged from a common ancestor that moved like a monkey. Apes knuckle walking was an immediate step between humans and monkeys, but we've already said that humans bypass this knuckle walking stage. So, Henry, shh. Right. So, but that's good. All these little bits. So, anything anyone else got to say today?
I think just
No, I was just
Hang on,
really.
let Henry.
yeah, I think there was a key one in that paper a bit further down. You might not have seen it. Was that they've found more of the fossil references in Spain, Hungary,
Oh,
and Germany. So it's over between the 9 and 7 million years.
oh, right.
Yes, I'm well aware of that. There is other evidence, but people don't really talk about it. Yes, yeah, this is what I read. It was a little note saying we found similar evidence in Spain and some of the other countries that you mentioned. And yes, that is out there. And the thing is, that's interesting, isn't it? So if we redid this and we looked at the evidence in Spain, right, would you think differently? Because it's Germany, the Germans seem to have to apologize for their past all the time, right? Unfortunately, we should be apologizing for our past with the concentration camps that we had in South Africa and all these terrible things that we did, right? We don't have to apologize every 5 minutes, so I don't see why the Germans should. And I don't see why German science should be ignored when it's groundbreaking. And, you know, those points. So anyone got anything else they'd like to say?
Oh,
No?
just
Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Yeah,
And,
so
okay, I'll just say a closing
thanks,
statement.
Carl.
Okay, thank you.
Session was really, really informative.
It's a pleasure. I'll just say one. So obviously I'll be seeing you guys tonight. If you're going to make a little presentation, we've got to try and fit it all in an hour. And I know you've all enjoyed it today, so that's good. Thank you for that, Del and Anne and Bill and Henry and Pat and Jessica. So anyone got anything else they want to say now quickly in praise of anything?
Yes,
Go for it.
can you take that picture of me in the trees down, please?
I will with Jane.
I'll see Pat and Bill tomorrow, 11 o'clock.
Right.
All right.
Okay then. Right, on that note,
Thank you very
if
much.
there's nothing else, it's my pleasure. If there's nothing else, I'm going to say goodnight
Thank you.
to Jessica, Bill, Pat, Anne, Henry, and Del, and I will see you all next
See
week
you next
in
week.
this valley.
Bye.
Keep your heart out. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Oh, he's gone.
They're all gone. Anyway, thanks for that. Oh, right. Oh, no. Okay.